The systems-based school certainly speaks to certain persons, especially like someone like myself who just, I actually remember my first time ever seeing the Thoth deck. And I think that's also an important point that I'll raise later, of course, that basically you probably will come to a school through a deck. And it's not so much that you'll choose a deck and choose a school, but probably the deck will actually be the mirror or the gateway to lead you to the school that works for you, to the one that you're being called to. At any rate, the systems-based is very good in a sense and very hard in another sense. In the one sense it's good is once you learn the basic systems and the symbols, you just have to look for the combinations, apply them, and you've got the meaning. In a certain sense, understanding and memorizing the meanings can become quite easy. Example, the 9 of Swords in the Thoth is called cruelty. I mean, of course, it says it on the card, which clues you off, and there's a bit of a picture, even though it's abstract. Another advantage, by using abstract art, it's ultimately and immediately multicultural. You don't have to worry about a bunch of white people and then working with an African-American woman. So, for example, you have Mars in Gemini. Well, Gemini is about thinking, and Mars is the lesser malefic, and 9 is the crescendo of the element. It's as it goes, it's petering out, it's hit its destination, it's established its goal. So it's the sort of negative strong energy in Gemini in thinking at the end of the road of the element. And Yesod is also sort of what you want to see is what you'll find. And so there's an element also of the subconscious. So it's really a card about mental anguish, isn't it? Mental anguish at the level of subconscious, things you haven't dealt with, and it's anguish because it's Mars. And it's coming to an end. So maybe about the results of things that are going to happen in the future. And as you can see, you don't really need to access books after a while once you figure out the systems. And then you can continue to play with the various symbols and combine and take them apart and deconstruct them in various different ways to see how it best works for you. And so again, in some cases, even though, like say, the Liberty can become very affrontive, I mean, after all, here's a guy triumphing over 2 dead rabbits, not very cute in, many New Age kind of circles, but the fact is, and there's a gentleman playing a pipe, and there's this concrete, and then there's underground, there's these swords with blood. The more you understand the symbols, the more that there is everyone that is a good tarot reader will blank. And the beauty of the symbol systems in the systems-based cards is when you blank and you have to do your fire alarm, which is, oh crap, what do I do now that I'm blanking? You just look in deep into the symbols and you just start picking apart the symbols. And so in a certain sense, the cards become great cheat sheets. And they can really pull you out of a funk real fast. Again, it takes quite a bit to get up and running in systems-based, but once you're up and running in systems-based, it's a lot easier to deal with card blanking, memory blanking, and things like this, and also to keep things going. Now, there's a number of misconceptions. First off is people will tell you you're going to have to read books like this, and you don't. You can, and it may be fun, but you don't. Actually, your books are much more like this. It's a good background book on things surrounding, and of course, look, here's a process book, a how-to. Look, very thin. So actually, it's a lot easier than people will make it out to be. Oh, and then of course, here's some by some Germans, been translated. That's I find quite helpful. And example, they do this quite a bit. Let's see if we can focus in on this. The bottom line here, they'll talk about that. Emotional, see Cancer. This is the 3 of Cups, abundance. Emotional exchange. Emotional intelligence. So exchange, there's the Mercury. So they show you how these concepts of the astrology work together. Also living, 3, feelings, water. So 3 in water, and how that all comes together. And so you see, That's the beauty of the systems-based. Secondly, people will say, oh, like John Ballantyne says, well, you know, your querent needs to know the astrological symbols and all this in the tree of life. No, John, they don't. Querents do not ask, how did you come up with your meaning? The fact of the matter is, we live in a heliocentric universe, or a solar system, excuse me. This table is predominantly composed of space and is in vast motion. And our Earth is spinning and is round. But you and I all live like we are the center of the universe, and that at least the Earth is the center of the universe, if not us particularly, though we usually think of ourselves as the center of the universe, to be honest. Let's just be real about it. That this is solid and static, it isn't going anywhere. And the Earth isn't round, it's quite flat, because obviously when I walk along I do not correct for curvature in my walking, in my stance, and how I place furniture in my house. The fact of the matter is, people want to know about themselves. So as long as you can relate these systems-based cards to their favorite subject, they'll be quite alright. Remember, it takes quite a bit of personal work to move beyond yourself, and so we ought to give them a break, which is one of the reasons why Spirit, Universe, God, Gods, Goddesses, all this work through tarot with people where they're at. It's a lot like yoga, you know, it's you start where you're at, and the universe starts with people where they're at, helps them where they're at to take them to a certain destination, and there is a hidden agenda. So, the system's based, and that is spiritual actualization. So, but you know, you got to lure people in by giving them what they want, which is on the physical realm, and does Johnny love me, all these sorts of things. People aren't going to ask you how you came up with it. They just want to know what you came up with. Don't tell them about the symbols so much unless they ask. Just say, I see you're suffering with a lot of mental anguish about things that you're not quite sure of. Maybe you are. You're not quite sure how they work out, but they're bothering you a lot. There you go. That's all they want to know. And the systems-based approach can be a very powerful tool to that end.